Months ago, I was supposed to die. Not almost die. Not barely survive. I mean, I was supposed to be there in that compound, in that room, beside the man I had served for years when the missiles hit. And if I had followed my normal schedule, if I had ignored one strange feeling, if I had stayed in Iran just one more week, you would not be hearing my voice right now. Because the people I worked with, the people I saw almost every single day, the people who stood where I was supposed to stand, they're gone. And I am alive for one reason I still can't fully explain. My mother says it was Jesus. A month ago, I would have laughed in her face for saying that. But after what happened, after the timing, the dreams, the phone call, the visa, the flight, the prayer, the strike, I can't call it coincidence anymore. My name is Fatimah. Oh, and I was one of the English interpreters trusted to translate for the most powerful man in Iran. This is the story of how I got pulled out right before death arrived, and why everything I believed collapsed in a matter of days. Stay with me, because what happened the night before the strike is the part I still cannot explain. If you had met me a year ago, you would have thought I was untouchable, disciplined, educated, loyal, composed. I spoke polished American English. I knew how to carry myself in political rooms. I knew how to translate power without losing meaning. And in the world I lived in that made me valuable. For years, my life revolved around government media, diplomatic language, controlled messaging, and the kind of private rooms most people never get nearby. I learned very early how to become two people at once. One version of me could speak to the world. The other version stayed buried. Most people around me knew me as a serious woman, focused, useful, trusted. But they didn't know where I came from. They didn't know I was born in America. They didn't know that before Iran, before politics, before religious duty, and carefully rehearsed public language, I was just a little girl with a mother who loved me. And that matters because this story didn't start with a missile. It started with my mother. My mother lived in California. For years, I kept her at a distance. Not because she had done something horrible to me, but because she represented a version of my life I had trained myself to erase. She belonged to a world I had taught myself to reject. And then one day, she changed. She gave her life to Jesus. At first, I thought it was embarrassing, then irritating, then dangerous. Because every time she called me, she sounded different, calmer, lighter, stronger. She wasn't the same woman I remembered from years before. She talked about prayer like it was real. She talked about peace like she had actually found it. She talked about Jesus like he wasn't just religion, but a living person. And I hated hearing it. I didn't want to hear about grace. I didn't want to hear about forgiveness. I didn't want to hear about salvation. Because the truth is, her peace bothered me. It bothered me because I didn't have it. I had status. I had access. I had influence. I had discipline. But peace? No. So when she kept bringing up Jesus, I did what people do when something hits too close to the heart. I got cruel. I told her to stop. I told her not to mention Christianity to me again. I told her she was risking my reputation. I told her she was being foolish. And eventually, I blocked her. Completely. No calls, no messages, no access to me at all. And I told myself I had done the right thing. But after I cut her off, something started happening to me. And this is where everything began to shift because what started happening made no sense. I started thinking about her constantly. Not casually. Not once in a while. Constantly. At work. At home. In cars. In meetings. In the middle of the night. I would hear her voice in my head. I would remember little things I hadn't thought about in years. The way she used to hold my hand. The way she said my name. The warmth in her voice when I was little. And the strangest part? It didn't feel like memory. It felt like I was being pulled. Like something was drawing me toward her, and I couldn't shut it off. I tried to drown it in work. Didn't work. I tried to ignore it. Didn't work. I tried to tell myself I was just emotional or tired or nostalgic. Still didn't work. Then the dreams started. One dream in particular still sits in my chest. I saw my mother standing in a bright garden, reaching her hand toward me. I was trying to get to her, but every step felt heavy, like I was walking against invisible force. She kept saying something, but I couldn't hear it. Then I woke up with tears on my face, and that scared me, because I am not the kind of person who makes major life decisions based on emotion. I plan, I calculate, I move carefully, but by early February, I couldn't resist it anymore. I knew I had to go see her, not later, not someday, now, immediately. And to this day, I still don't know how to explain the urgency I felt. I just knew if I ignored it, I would regret it. So I did something I had not seriously considered in years. I started trying to go back to America. It wasn't simple. Travel like that isn't just book a ticket and go. There were obstacles, questions, interviews, documents, waiting, uncertainty. And I knew there was a real chance I would be denied. But I had one thing working in my favor. I was born in the United States. That old piece of paper, my American birth record, suddenly became the key to a door I hadn't tried to open in a very long time. I gathered everything: documents, employment records, financial records, travel details. And then I had to do something I never expected to do. I had to contact my mother, after everything I had said, after blocking her, after rejecting her. I reached out and told her I needed an invitation letter. When she heard my voice, she cried. Not angry tears, not "I told you so," just relief, pure relief. And what she said next stayed with me. She said, "I knew this day would come. I've been praying for you." That word again, praying. At the time, I still pushed it away. But she sent the letter. Immediately. No hesitation. No conditions. Just love. I went through the process. I answered questions. I sat through the tension. I waited for a decision that could have gone either way. And somehow, it got approved. When I finally had that travel clearance in my hands, I felt something strange. Not excitement. Not exactly. More like a clock was ticking, like I needed to move fast. And I didn't know why. I thought I was just going to see my mother. I had no idea I was actually being moved out of the line of death. When I landed in Los Angeles, I expected to feel awkward, disoriented, out of place. Instead, I felt something I wasn't prepared for. Grief. The kind that sneaks up on you when you realize part of you never stopped belonging somewhere. The air, the roads, the sound of English all around me, the ordinary freedom of everything. It stirred something in me I had buried for years. That first night, I barely slept. The next morning, I went to see my mother. And when she saw me, she ran to me like she'd been holding her breath for half her life. There's no way to describe what it feels like to be embraced by someone you hurt and still be loved without hesitation. She held me and cried. I cried too. And for the first time in years, I felt my guard start to break. Not all at once, but enough. Over the next few days, we spent time together like we were trying to recover lost years. We talked, we laughed, we cried, We drove through places from my childhood, and something inside me started softening. Not because anyone argued me into it, not because someone won a religious debate, but because I was around something real. My mother had a peace I couldn't fake, a warmth I couldn't explain, a steadiness that didn't look like performance. And still I wasn't ready to admit what was happening. I thought I was just visiting. I thought I'd go back to my life. I thought I had time. I was wrong. The morning it happened, I woke up to missed calls. A lot of missed calls. Messages. Notifications. The kind that instantly tells your body something is very, very wrong. At first, I thought maybe it was a security issue. Maybe a political emergency. Maybe some major development I needed to respond to. Then I opened one message, and everything inside me went cold. The compound had been hit. I turned on the television, and there it was. Smoke, debris, panic, breaking coverage. The kind of footage that doesn't feel real until your brain catches up with what your eyes are seeing. Then came the names, then the details, then the location. And the second I saw where it happened, my stomach dropped. Because I knew that place. I knew those walls. I knew those halls. I knew where people stood, where meetings happened, where staff gathered, and I knew one more thing. I was supposed to be there. That is the sentence that keeps echoing in my head. I was supposed to be there. If I had stayed on schedule, if I had not taken leave, if I had not listened to that strange urgency to go see my mother, I would have been inside the radius of that strike. No question. No exaggeration. No dramatic wording. I would have died. And the moment that reality landed on me, I couldn't breathe. Because suddenly, this was no longer politics, no longer headlines, no longer distant tragedy. This was personal. This was my seat, my hallway, my routine, my people, my death that somehow didn't happen. But what my mother told me next is the part that completely shattered my resistance. I called my mother immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. She answered, like she had been waiting for me to call. And before I could even explain what I was feeling, she said something that froze me. She said, "I was awake praying for you in the middle of the night." I asked her what she meant. She said she woke up suddenly with a heavy burden in her chest. No clear explanation. No news yet. No phone call. No information. Just this overwhelming need to pray for me. She said she got out of bed and started asking Jesus to protect me, over and over, for hours, and when the news broke later, she understood why. I sat there in silence, because now all the pieces were in front of me. The pull, the dreams, the sudden trip, the impossible timing, the approved entry, the exact week, the exact days, the exact window, and now this. Her prayer in the exact hours I would have been in danger. I had spent so much of my life dismissing things that couldn't be measured. But this was too precise, too personal, too layered, too impossible. And for the first time in my life, I stopped arguing. That night, I sat in my mother's living room in complete silence. No television, no headlines, no political language, no performance, just silence. And in that silence, everything I had built my identity on started falling apart. Because if I was honest, I had been spiritually exhausted for a long time. I had learned how to look composed while feeling empty, how to sound certain while carrying doubt, how to stay useful while feeling numb. And now I was alive when I should have been dead. Why? That question became louder than everything else. Why was I spared? Why was I moved? Why was I protected? Why now? My mother didn't force me. She didn't preach at me. She just sat there with tears in her eyes and asked one simple question. Are you finally ready to ask who saved you? And something in me broke. Not in a chaotic way, in a surrender way. The kind where your soul gets tired of resisting what your heart already knows. I cried harder than I have ever cried in my life. Because suddenly, I wasn't just grieving the people who died. I was grieving the version of me that had spent years running from truth. And in that room, I said the words I never thought I would say. I told my mother, I want to know Jesus. She wept. I wept. And for the first time in my life, I prayed from a place that wasn't performance, fear, or obligation. Just desperation, just honesty, just surrender. And I can't explain it any other way except this. Something lifted off me. Not all my questions, not all my confusion, not all my grief, but the weight, the deep, crushing, hidden weight. It lifted, and peace came in. Real peace. Not public peace, not rehearsed peace. Real peace. I don't know what happens next for me. My old life is gone. The path I thought I was walking is over. There are people I may never see again. Places I may never return to. A version of my future that died before I even realized it was dying. But I know this. I should not be alive, and yet I am. So call it what you want. Luck, timing, fate, coincidence. But after living it, I can't call it random. I believe Jesus pulled me out before the strike. I believe my mother's prayers were heard. And I believe I was rescued for a reason. If you're watching this and you've ever wondered whether God can reach somebody in the darkest place I am telling you right now, He can. Because He reached me. And if you believe this was more than coincidence, type this in the comments. Jesus rescued her. And if you've ever had a moment in your life that felt too precise to be random, I want to hear your story too. Because maybe, just maybe, you were being rescued too.